Hey guys, in this tutorial we're going to create a 2-tier cake with stripes on the bottom and a castle on the top. I'm starting out with a 7-inch cake already covered in baby pink. If you're new here, I have all the steps to get to this point, including how to cover a cake and get the sharp edges, and also cover the board around the cake like it is here in white. These cake basics are always listed in the description box below. If you were wondering how tall this is, I measured it and it was 6-inch high. Firstly, we're going to create our stripes. I'm using white sugar paste, which I'm dipping into Tylo powder to help firm it up. Without the Tylo powder, the sugar paste can sometimes be too soft. Just dip your paste into the tub and the powder will stick to the surface. Fully knead it in until the powder is all incorporated. Now roll it out with your rolling pin. To make this job much quicker and easier, pass it through a pasta machine. This will make all your strips completely even and uniformed. Mine is just a cheap crank handle one that I've had for quite a few years, but it's never let me down. I'll leave it linked in the description box with everything else I used on this cake. Another handy tool that goes hand in hand with the pasta machine for making stripes is a quilting ruler. You've seen me use this one before. It's a pretty handy size and also see-through with lots of size markers to follow. Just lay it on top of your paste and cut a straight edge. Next, line the ruler up to however wide you want your strip. Just keep the markers on that straight edge. Hold it firmly and cut the strip with your scalpel. Continue along until you have lots of strips. Here is a strip freshly cut. As you can see, it's still quite soft and bendy. We want to leave these to firm up a little bit, as then they will be easier to apply to the cake. Lay them on a foam mat to help them dry quicker. Whilst they're set, we will dowel the cake. Insert your first support in the centre and mark the height of the cake. Then cut all your other supports to the same size. As the top tier going on is 5-inch, I'm using 6 dowels, 1 in the centre and 5 around the outside. To glue your tier, you can use ganache, melted chocolate or royal icing. Carefully lift your 5-inch cake covered in white onto your dowels and push it central. Leave this to fully set before applying the strips. Dampen the back of one of the strips with water and carefully apply it to the bottom cake. The quilting ruler also comes in handy for straightening it. Cut the stripe flush with the top of the cake before moving on to the next strip. You can of course measure if you wish, but I usually just eyeball it. It's quicker. Continue around the cake, alternating between the left and the right so that you finish at the back. Here is the gap I have left. Luckily, I think it will take one more strip. If you have a smaller gap, just slightly trim one of the strips down thinner. Now it all looks the same, but luckily I use these handy sticky dots to show me where the front is. I'm taking inspiration from Georgie's party invite for this design. As you can see, I've used the pink and white stripes, and I'm going to take the name to apply to the front so it all matches. This image is also on my computer, which I'm going to use to trace onto some paper. I've cut the greaseproof paper down to the rough size I want the name. This way, when I take it to the computer, I don't trace it too big or too small. I hold it up to the screen and use a pencil to draw around it. Place this paper on top of some white paste with Tylo added and trace around the letters with a Dresden tool. This is a new product I'm trying out. It's an edible paint by Spectrum Flow in the colour Baby Pink. I've tested the colour on a spare strip. The colour on camera does look baby pink, but in real life it is much brighter. I'm after a less sickly pink, like a rose pink. I'm doing a little experiment to see if I can change the colour with gel to get the right shade to match. Here I am adding some cherry red sugar flavoured gel. Yep, that's exactly the colour I was going for. But will it stay that way? I'm going to paint the strip, leave it to set and see how it looks once it's dried. Sometimes when mixing paints, upon drying the outer edge can bleed a deeper colour, so I just want to make sure it works before using it on the name. I'll experiment so you don't have to. Next, take a scalpel and cut out the name, leaving a white frame around it. Clean up any rough edges with your finger and lay it on a foam mat just to stiffen up a little bit. Another element we can work on are the castle towers. Roll out a sausage of white paste with Tylo powder added and cut it down to roughly the height of your cake. This cake is travelling, so I'm adding extra support so 1, it doesn't fall off, and 2, it doesn't sink under its own weight. Just dampen a kebab stick and insert it through the sausage. Leave a little poking out the top to secure the roof, and the remaining stick will hold it steady inside the bottom tier. Don't worry if you've squashed it, you can just roll it back into shape and then cut it to size, measuring with your quilting ruler. Make 2 towers the same height as your cake and 2 smaller ones which shouldn't need support, however you can add it if you want to. Now that the name is dry, we can stick it to the front of the cake with water. Just apply pressure where it sits on the white stripes so the letters don't sink into the pink bits. Now take one of the larger towers and insert the kebab stick down inside the bottom tier. Apply water to the inside so it will stick into place. The 2 towers go on either side of the white cake and the 2 smaller ones slightly in front, again just stuck with water. Using a slightly deeper pink, score rough lines to make it look like wood, or use a wooden impression mat. From this, cut an arch shape like a door. Simply stick this with water between the 2 small towers and score in a centre line. Roll out a white sausage to frame the door. As you can see, mine came up just a little short, but you could just add in a small piece and replicate the look on the other side. Continue scoring in lines around the frame and dot in texture with the sharp end of the Dresden tool. For extra detail, I'm using an ornate mould. If I find the exact one, I'll leave it linked below. Any fancy shape will do. Just dust the mould with icing sugar and place in some white paste with Tylo added, or use modelling paste. This will stick above the door with water to finish it off. A few of you have told me you struggle with rooftops. I start with a crack-free ball and angle my palms together as I roll to make a point. You can also roll it along the worktop to even it out. With a sharp knife, cut off the bottom by rolling it across the top to keep its rounded shape. Dampen the top of the tower and insert it into the exposed kebab stick to keep it in place. Do the same with the other tower and add small ones to the front. Another popular mould is this number one, which I will leave linked below. Be sure to fill it with modelling paste or sugar paste with Tylo added for a successful release. Another cute detail to add to castles are exposed brick. These are made with flattened ovals, usually in groups of 2, which you can also add texture to with the pointy end of the Dresden tool. Grab your pasta machine again and roll out a nice thin piece of white paste. The thinner the better for small shapes. I'm using these 2 small star plunger cutters, which you can pick up from most places. Cut out a few and stick them around the name. I've chosen to start at the top right to meet the name, and then they trail off to the bottom left, finishing on the board. Whilst we have the thin paste, cut out a triangle piece and place a short 28 gauge wire with water on the larger end and fold it over to encase the wire. You can leave your flags flat or bend them slightly to make it look like they're blowing in the wind. Place them to one side to dry. I'm using Phase Dust again in Regency Gold. Just mix it with lemon extract to create a paint and cover the number and doorway detail. If your flags are dry, insert them down into the rooftops and you can continue to paint them. I've also added some door handles and painted all the stars. And we're done. You can add a crown to the top or a princess or maybe a cute animal. As you can see, we added Peppa Pig to match the invites. I already have a tutorial on Peppa, which I will leave linked at the end of this video and also below. Hopefully this comes in handy for those pesky straight stripes and for creating a quick castle to personalise and make your own. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up, a comment, or maybe even a share. Thanks guys, see you next week.